You are watching Issues at Hand on Family TV. Thank you for joining us today. And my name is Bruno, Edgard. And as always, we tackle pertinent issues together as a family as we try to better our country. Now, Issues at Hand is proudly brought to you by Protea Hotel, a very relaxing and convenient place if you want to go relax and meditate and have yourself either a function, whether it be a wedding or a conference. It is the right place for you. You can reserve or make a booking and go and enjoy the convenience and the beauty that is at Protea Hotel Entebbe. Thank you once again for joining us today. Our issue is big because over the past couple of months, in fact, even this morning, there was a story about how there was flooding in a region in eastern Uganda, and then we also know about the flooding that happened in Kasese, the landslides that happened in Kasese. Then there was the issue of flooding in Mbale that brought the town to a halt. So we are here to discuss the weather and what the weather forecast coming from the Uganda National Meteorological Authority means for us as Ugandans as we look at the current disasters that are happening. So what does it mean, and should we be wary? And we are going to hear from our guests about what we can do to avoid the disasters that have taken place in our regions. Now, my guest for today is Mr. Omony George William, who is a manager forecasting services at Uganda National Meteorological Authority. You are welcome back to Issues at Hand.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting us.
And for those who might not know or who missed the episode when you first came, what is the mandate of the Uganda National Meteorological Authority?
Thank you, moderator. I Yunma send appreciation for giving us airtime as Uganda National Meteorological Authority, at least to interact with the people. You know, weather-related disaster, it is touching all sectors of the economy, and we need to take preparedness early enough. Well, Uganda National Meteorological Authority, it is a government institution under the Ministry of Water and Environment, which is mandated to monitor the weather and climate across the country, and at the same time also issue the early warning information. In addition to that, the authority also is charged with the responsibility of collecting all the weather data, then generate a forecast or a projection so that the community or the people who use the weather and climate information can take early precaution in time before the disaster occurs.
Wonderful. Now we have understood, and we now know why we have Mr. George William here with us to take us through the weather forecast as far as the months of September and October are concerned, and how we should be prepared, especially in areas where floods have become a common norm. Now, I'm going to start by reading us a press release from the Office of the Prime Minister that has given a disaster alert for September. That is a flood disaster alert. Now, the Uganda National Meteorological Authority released the seasonal weather forecast for September, October, November, and December 2022, just after some areas in the north and parts of eastern recorded substantial rains during the month of August. Now, the month of September, which we are in, is projected to experience near normal average with a tendency to above normal enhanced rainfall. The enhanced rains are expected in the southwest, midwestern, West Nile, some parts of the northern areas around Lake Choga, the Lake Choga Basin, and Elgon sub-region. Now, this implies possible floods, lightning, hailstorm, and landslide episodes. The rest of the country is expected to receive near normal rains during the month of September, with a peak of the rains in early October 2022. So as you can see, the weather is clear that the rains are coming and they are going to continue to fall. in a pattern of average or normal, and a tendency to become a downpour over the next couple of months. That's September, October, November, and December. But for some regions in this country, it spells disaster because it means possible floods or landslides. Now, Mr. George William, since you are the manager of forecasting services, can you give us a more detailed report on the weather we should expect for the upcoming months?
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Viewers, this is the rightful time. I think we need to be attentive so that we get to know what is happening and what is going to happen. Uganda National Meteorological Authority released the forecast for September, October, November, covering most part of the country, looking at how the rain will be during these 4 months, which is still pending until the end of the year. Well, this is the last rainfall season of the year, and we know very well the country had been going through severe prolonged dry spell, and it really affected the livelihood of the people so much. So right now we are back in the rain, and we released the forecast at the end of last month, that is August. We stated very clearly that this particular season, the rainfall is going to get established in most part of the country. As I talk right now, most part of the country are now receiving rainfall, and it is in line with what was projected. So we also indicated very clearly that there are areas which are going to be suffering from a lot of disasters which might come with the heavy rainfall. And we mentioned those particular areas. One of the area is the Mount Elgon region. We also mentioned areas like the Kigezi Island. We also talk about the Rwenzori. Then we also talk, there is the northern part of the country, that is Elgon border post. It is so prone to flooding, particularly during this period of the time. Why are we giving this projection or indicating those areas which can easily be affected by the flood? The reason is very clear, because our projection indicated very clearly that this particular month, the first month of the season, that is September, is going to get more than average rainfall in most part of the country. So the more than average rainfall, what does it imply? It will always come with a lot of impact. And the impact is always negative impact will come into play. And this negative impact can be something like landslide, can be flooding, can be waterlogging in very many areas. At the same time, the positive impact is enhancement of water availability for both the animals and the human being. So we also encourage people to make the good use of this available water so that they can at least try to save some water since they've been going through serious dry spell. And we also indicated there are areas which are so prone to waterlogging, like the Teso sub-region. Those are the lowland areas. And even not only Teso sub-region, even other areas like central area like Nakasongola. As I talk right now, they are almost waterlogging everywhere. So that early warning information was given in time, and people were advised that area which is prone to waterlogging, they can go and plant, like if it is an area where they use for planting crops, they can go and plant some crops like the rice. Those ones, they are very good. They can really survive very well in the water. But if you find the crops cannot survive in the waterlogged area, please avoid planting your crops there because it can easily be destroyed. Then those other places which are expected to be having the landslide, the flooding, the day we issued the forecast, that was immediately after issuing the forecast, and we had already known that the amount of rainfall which is coming during this month is going to be too much. Then it did not even take long. After 2 days, there was that landslide, which was very unfortunate in Kasese. So some lives were lost, even properties, and so on. So those were given in the early warning information, and we advise the community, even the government at large, please take this early warning information very seriously, because they are natural disaster. We cannot stop it, but we can get a way of avoiding it. As I talk also, in Mount Elgon region, that is Bokwo. Bokwo also suffered from the landslide. There is a road where the Chinese are also working on it. They destroyed their activity completely. Then in Bulambuli, the same thing also happened. That was flooding and a landslide. And at the same time also, there are other places where water logging is everywhere. It covers almost most of the gardens. So those are the events, the episode of this particular too much rainfall which we projected. So we request our community to take this forecast and advisory seriously. Of course, we mentioned that this coming month of October, we are going to continue getting the same rainfall, but there is a possibility there might not be so much like this particular month of September. But of course, because right now, this month of September, we are going to have too much rainfall. Even if the little we are going to get in October, it will cause a disaster because the soil is already wet. When the soil is wet, area which is prone to landslide, the moment small rainfall comes, it will just explode. So we still advise people to continue watching those places in the coming month of October. Even right now, the continuous event is still happening. The projection also indicated very clearly that this particular season might not be a long rainfall season because there are systems which brings this particular rainfall will be the one playing the greatest role. And this particular system looks like by November, the month of November, the rainfall will start declining. You know, most part of the country, normally the rainfall start declining by December. So we might not go up to December, this particular rainfall season. So we might be by the November, that is when the decline of the rainfall is expected to get established. Thank you.
Thank you for that report, and clearly it shows that when it rains, it pours. And we were praying for rain earlier on in the year because the dry spell was prolonged, but now it seems like our prayers have been answered in plenty and abundance as the rains are really going to come flooding down. Now, let me read for you more from the press release from the office of the Prime Minister as far as the impact that the rainfalls in the month of September are going to have. So, one, heavy downpours cause floods in low-lying areas and parts of Elgon, Teso, Butaleja, Butebo, Rwanda, and flash floods in urban areas such as Kampala, along the River Nile and around Elegu border area in Amuru. Now, low-lying areas around Rwenzori like Kasese, Ntoroko, Bondibujo have also experienced flooding incidents. Now, 2, landslides and mud flows may occur in the highland areas of Elgon and Chigezi. 3, epidemics. There is a likely surge of water-related diseases like cholera, typhoid, dysentery, and increased transmission of malaria due to fertile breeding grounds for mosquitoes. And then 4, delays in transport services due to surges in water volumes in river channels and possible displacement in some parts of the country. Now, 5, road accidents due to the reduced visibility brought about by the rain episodes. There is a likelihood of increased incidences of accidents on highways and other service roads. Surely the office of the Prime Minister is in agreement with the forecast from the authority. And for me, my question for you, Mr. George William, is what does this forecast mean for Ugandans? Are we safe? And if not, how can we keep ourselves safe from things like floods and landslides and other natural disasters?
Okay, thank you. Now, the country had been going through severe and prolonged dry spell. And you know, if you look at the dry spell, then too much rainfall. Obviously, people will choose rainfall, at least to be in heavy rainfall, than to be in a severe dry spell. Because severe dry spell will cause a lot of food shortages. But with rainfall, at least we can get enhancement of our food stuff.
So rain is better than that.
Rain is okay. And I would like to tell the people, every community where they are staying, they know area which is a hot spot. When I talk of a hot spot, meaning area which flood frequently. almost every time the moment it rains, area where landslide always occur, and areas where there is a lot of landslide, waterlogging, and those kind of things. So it means when rain comes, the moment the prediction shows that the rain is going to be too much, we will not run away from those kind of events. So the only thing is, let us try to avoid those areas so that we get the mitigation measures, so that we be in an area where we can make good use of the available rain. So the country should really appreciate the rain which is coming. Of course, it is causing a lot of disasters, but this particular disaster, we can at least get a way of avoiding it. So we have to work together, all sectors, because this weather doesn't know any political boundaries. This weather doesn't know any races. Weather cuts across. So all of us are affected. Since all of us are affected, we need to work together. We do a proper coordination. Then in the process of doing a proper coordination, meaning information will be reaching the public in time, so that early preparedness will be put in place, and people will not be caught off guard with this particular disaster. So the country should embrace this particular rainfall, which is happening in most part of the country. I strongly believe there is going to be a bumper harvest by the end of this season.
There is going to be a bumper harvest, but in order for there to be a bumper harvest, you'll agree with me that we need to live to see that bumper harvest. So my question for you as an authority, what has been your take on the response from citizens and community members? Because we have seen in both the scenarios, or in Mbale and recently in Kasese, where the respective rivers burst their banks. In both scenarios, there had been warnings from the likes of the Uganda National Meteorological Authority, as well as the Office of the Prime Minister. There had been warnings, but it seems like members of the community do not heed these warnings, and then we end up finding ourselves being the victims of certain disasters. So as an authority, what would you like us as members of communities to do now that you have given us this report of expecting a flooding or landslide in certain areas?
Thank you. Uganda National Meteorological Authority works with all stakeholders. The moment we generated the forecast for every rainfall season, we call all sectors so that we come and give an input to this particular forecast product. OPM is one of our agents that we work together with them. MAIF is also another one. Then Water Resources is also another one. Ministry of Health is also another one, and others. And also we work together with some other NGOs and CBOs, because these are the people who are in close contact with the community. So once we generated the forecast product, we call these sectors, we give them what is going to happen in the coming 2-3 months. Then their input will be, what can you give to this particular forecast product? That is advisories. If MAIF is working with farmers, then what does it imply, the particular forecast to the farmers? Of course, it is not only crops, there are animals, there are also
for
fisheries.
Purposes of clarity, what is MAIF?
MAIF, Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industries and Fisheries. So they are the one who are giving advisories product on to the farmers, people who are farmers. When I talk about the farmers, meaning those who are dealing on crops, those who are dealing on fisheries, then those who are dealing on even keeping animals. So then the beekeepers. So they give the advisories, what should they do? Then the Office of the Prime Minister, of course, is the one responsible for giving the early warning information on disaster related. So we map all those areas which are prone to disaster. Now, I would like to tell the public and the country at large that looking at these, if you find some of these sectors, they are reaching you at a grassroots level and are giving you this early warning information, just be assured this particular early warning information is from Uganda National Meteorological Authority. The one you see the Office of the Prime Minister is always giving across the country, we are the one who developed that. Then we give it to them. then they are the one to disseminate it. Also, there are some other NGOs, both local NGOs and international NGOs. We are working with them. And because they are working with also the grassroots level, and they're looking at some other disaster which is prone in a particular area where they're working. So they also get this focus product from us and they disseminate it to the grassroots level. So all those are coming from Uganda National Meteorological Authority. Please embrace those early warning information because they will come the moment it is predicted. If you try to avoid or you try to just discard it off, you will be caught by those particular disasters. Then you start asking yourself why. A case in point when it happened in Mbale, that early warning information was given. And to my, I really appreciate the Member of Parliament for Mbale. He appreciated the Uganda National Meteorological Authority for giving that early warning information in time. So the only problem was respond to that particular early warning information, which was slowed. So disaster decided to cut up people surprisingly. Thank you.
All right, thank you for giving us that warning and for giving us that advice. And then on the rains that are expected from September throughout to November or December, if God has his own plans, what are some of the types of rain that we should expect? And can you highlight for us some of the areas that are most likely going to be affected in terms of flooding and landslide and other disasters?
Okay, thank you. In our forecast, the one we issued recently, we indicated the northern part of the country, the West Nile is also included, then the eastern part of the country minus Karamoja, then coming to the western sector also. The western sector, particularly the midwestern, that is the Mount Rwenzori region, then also going to southwestern region. Those are the areas which is expected to receive enhancement of rainfall. And the rainfall is going to be more than the average rainfall, which is always experienced over the area. That implies there is going to be more disaster expected to occur. While other areas like the central Karamoja sub-region, then the forecast indicated that the rainfall might not be so much. It will be an average rainfall. And of course, average rainfall, we cannot say that there is going to be no disasters, because disaster will come in any given area the moment there is a continuous rainfall. And also that area is always prone to those particular disasters. So we advise particularly the northern part. The northern part always, their main effect is always the waterlogging. You know, it is a flat land, and flat land are always associated with waterlogging. While mountainous region, particularly the Rwenzori Mountain, the Elgon, the southwestern islands, those one, they should take precaution of landslide, because if rain keeps on pounding continuously for this month, even next month, so we should be ready to see more of those kind of disaster coming.
All right, you've heard it right there. That's the warning that has been given to us. But when we talk about weather, I'm always drawn to this topic of climate change, because many of us, especially here in Uganda, I know in the West it's a really big deal because they're experiencing effects of it as well. But here sometimes in Uganda we would like to think that that's not a problem that we are suffering from, but we can already see the effects if you look at the flooding and the landslides that are happening. Can you tell us about climate change and its effects? Because for instance, we have seen that during the first months of this year there was a problem of a prolonged dry spell, and now we are getting into a segment of the year where we are going to have a rainfall, and in some areas it's going to be a heavy downpour that will lead to environmental disasters. So is climate change real, and can we attribute this inconsistency in terms of weather to climate change, or is this how the forecast was supposed to be, and things are just in terms of weather, the rains and the prolonged dry spell are just happening naturally?
Thank you. Climate change is real. People should not think about there is no climate change. What climate change is there, and it is going to stay with us. So there are so many indicators that there is an existence of climate change over the world, and even in Uganda, even in a particular location where we are. Let me just give some of the indicators over Uganda. Number one, shifting of the onset of the rainfall season. When I talk about the shifting of the onset of the rainfall season, that is the period at which rainfall is supposed to start. You know, if you go to the elderly people, those who have at least seen days, 70 years, 60 years, they can tell you those days, rainfall begins around March the 15th. And by that time, they will prepare everything in place. But nowadays, you find it can delay. It can even go up to end of March, or it can even go up to April. Or sometimes it can come earlier, like in February, around mid to end of February. Then by beginning of March, you will not see rain. So that is one of the indicators that there is climate change. We also look at cessation of the rain. That is the period at which the first rainfall season is stopping. If you look at like March, April, and May rainfall season, we expect that by end of May, the rainfall should be stopping. So nowadays, you find the rain might even end around the month of April, or it might even continue up to June. So looking at that kind of variation and the changes, those are typical indicators of the changing pattern of the climate. We can also go to look at the disease outbreak or occurrence. I give an example of the Kabale. Kabale used to be called a malaria-free zone those days. As I talk right now, there is malaria infestation in Kabale. What does it imply? The climate has changed. What has brought that? There is a rising temperature, because the temperature is now conducive enough to harbor multiplication of mosquitoes. Because those days it was so cold that mosquito cannot multiply in that area. Because of the increasing temperature now, mosquitoes started harboring in that particular place. So malaria are now so common in that place. Those are indicators of climate change. We look at our mountain like the Rwenzori, where there is a lot of ice coverage those days. It was so wide. As we talk right now, the coverage has already gone down. So those are indications that rising temperature has induced climate change in it. Then we look at our swamps. I'm talking about the swamp where people have not encroached. The swamps which have really been in their natural state. The water which used to be there, it is now becoming smaller, smaller, and smaller. All those are indication of climate change, which is playing the greatest role. So when we talk about climate change, some people always think about climate change brings a lot of dry condition. Climate change brings a lot of drought. No, climate change brings both. It can bring severe dry spell or prolonged dry spell or serious drought. At the same time, climate change can also bring a lot of rainfall. Period where rain is not supposed to be raining, you find the rain is pouring and will continue. It will confuse the farmers that this is supposed to be a dry season. Why are we getting rain? So those one are also as the results of climate change. So whenever we are tagging something to a climate change, particularly these particular events, we always look at their frequency of occurrence. Then we look back, like 30 years back. Then we look now. 30 years back, they were happening. Right now, they are also happening. Comparing the frequency of occurrence those days and now, which one is more frequent, which one is happening many times, is it the past or now? If we find that right now it is happening many times compared to the past, that is a serious indication of impact of climate change. Thank you.
All right, that is very powerful, and now we know that climate change is real, and these are the effects that we are seeing here in this country, and it's real, and it's causing a bit of headache to many Ugandans in terms of the loss of lives, in terms of the loss of property, the loss of homes, and so we have to be very vigilant about our environment and ensuring that we take good care of our environment so that we do not have these problems, because the rains will continue to pour. We cannot stop them from happening. It's going to happen. So our place is, what is our response to receiving these rains? How can we ensure that our environment does not fall victim to floods or mudslides and landslides as well? Now, if you want to be part of this conversation, I know many of you are itching to, especially farmers out there, and later on we're going to hear from our guest, Mr. George William, who is going to give advice to to farmers when it comes to the weather patterns that we should expect in the next couple of months. But if you want to be part of this conversation, you can send us a WhatsApp message on 0787447684, 0787447684, and we shall have your comments and queries adequately addressed. Please be a part of this conversation. We want to know what your thought is when it comes to the rain that is expected later on in the next couple of months. Want to get in touch with us, please send us a WhatsApp message on 0787447684. We shall address your comments and your queries. And now, Mr. George William, what are the habits that we can practice as precautions to ensure that we do not fall victim to these environmental disasters, especially when it comes to the areas like you mentioned that are going to be that are usually prone to such disasters, like the Elgon region, the Rwenzori region, and some of the regions that you mentioned?
Thank you. You know, the community, sometimes they don't take into consideration so much the early warning information which is given. So that kind of habit, please, you need to change. The early warning information given is real, like the climate change itself. So you cannot just pretend that this is not something which is going to happen. Please take it for safety of yourself and the family. Then two, you see, like, people are now encroaching onto the area which is a natural, say, like area which is forested, even the wetland area, the hilly area. Now, in those areas, like hilly areas in particular, you are tampering with the soils. You are tampering with also the forest. Now, at the end, you are going to loosen the soil. You cut the trees, you are loosening the soil. Whenever heavy rainfall comes, automatically it has to come down. So I would like to advise the people, particularly in this mountainous region, Elgon, Rwenzori, even the Kigezi Islands. Those areas are so prone to those landslides and flooding. Now, avoid going higher onto the mountainside. Then coming to areas which waterlog, we, the community, we know it very well, that in our area, this area, always during the rainfall season, there is a waterlogging. Why do you go again and start planting? Move away from that area, because it will not do you good. It will destroy your crop. So try to go upland a bit, so that even if heavy rainfall comes, it will not affect your crops. So the plant crops, which can, with 2 months of rainfall, it is enough for it now to continue with the shorter period of the dry spell, where it will be mature enough, then you start harvesting. So take these advisories as something which is very important for your livelihood.
And then what is your advice to farmers, especially those who are involved in these mountainous areas that are prone to flooding and landslides and mudslides, what should they be cautious about when it comes to planting, especially now that some of those regions may have a heavy downpour?
Thank you. These farmers who are now planting on the uphill, like areas which is prone to this landslide, please stop that. Why? Because you will be the cause of the problem downstream. Because you are doing a lot of farming activities, you are cutting trees, you are digging, you are making the soil to be so loose, so that when heavy rainfall comes, then it will start washing the topsoil, and this one will end up going downstream. Of course, you know, in a hilly areas, the heavy rainfall is always received at the top of the mountain. That one is scientifically, it is very clear. We always explain it. If you go to this mountainous region, always the mountainous region, the top part, that is an area which it can rain within the shortest time. So sometimes the rain can even come abrupt in the middle of the day. In that, we need to be very careful, so that right now, let us not plant anything, let us not cultivate on the hilly area. We get out of that place, we go downstream away, so that we don't cause serious impact downstream to our livelihood.
Thank you. You've heard it, and a lot of experts have been saying that, and I hope that as farmers and as community members, we shall heed those warnings so that we prevent disasters like mudslides and landslides. Now, we have received your questions and queries for today. So thank you so much for sending in your comments, and I will start from Martha Kugonza, who says, "Hello Family TV. My question is that has the Meteorological Authority done anything to take on this message to the black spot areas in the languages they understand? Because we have communities that don't understand the language that the office of the Prime Minister uses."
Thank you. We have downscaled our forecast into 35 local languages. At least it has covered most part of the languages in the country. The English version is there, but the local languages are also there. So we have downscaled that, and because we know when we give this forecast or the advisories to the community in the English language, many people don't understand. We did the research, that's where they are complaining. And that was why we were prompted to start downscaling this. As we talk right now, we have built the capacity, we have trained the local government staff how to downscale this forecast into their local languages. Because what we did, we knew that there are some other districts whereby they have their own language and we have not yet captured them. So we have trained them, given the forecast product. How can you downscale it into the local language? How can you translate it into your local language? So that whenever you are going to the field as an extension workers, you should not take these English forecasts or advisories to the farmers. What you should be taking should be translated into the local languages. That is how we are now collaborating with all the sector of the government, the civil society, giving this community at least something that they can understand and make good use of it.
All right, thank you for ensuring that all communities, thank you Uganda National Meteorological Authority for ensuring that all communities in Uganda are sensitized about the weather forecasts. And then Bale Joshua in Chireka says, what causes the floods at Clock Tower, Queensway, Ginger Road, Namave, Boyogere, Chireka, Banda, and among others? Are they also uplands, as you said?
Thank you. We all know very well Kampala is a wetland. Kampala city is a wetland. And we have encroached on this wetland. Whenever it rains, rain knows where it used to go. Well, the government has done a lot by putting in place drainage system, which had been assisting, and up to now it is even assisting this particular flooding. But of course, you know, when dry spell, prolonged dry spell comes into play, so most of the authority forget to always remove the blockages in the drainage system.
For example, in Boise, the drainage system in Boise,
like in Boise.
is a very
so you
congested.
find everything is already covered. Then when rain comes, because rain now, water now wants to flow where it had been directed, it finds a complete blockade. So there's nothing the water can do, it has to come out. That is the main reason why Kampala is ever flooding. That is number one. Number two, whenever rain has taken long without coming, the moment it comes, it always bounces at a very intense state. So that intense state will not allow infiltration of water to go into the soil. Then the water has to start flowing. Now by flowing, if where it had been directed to flow, but it find it had already been blocked, then that is the cause of the flooding in Kampala. Thank you.
Thank you for addressing that. You've had the answer, and as people who dwell in Kampala City, we need to be more serious about ensuring that the drainage channels are not blocked so that the water can flow freely and we cannot have and experience floods in the city. Now, Mr. George William, what's your final remark on how we can prepare ourselves amidst the oncoming downpour and deluge of rainfall?
Thank you. I would like to advise the community at large. We have issued the forecast for the September, October, November, December, but that one alone is not enough. We are also issuing the daily forecast every day. In addition to that, we are also issuing the 10 days forecast. Then we are also issuing the monthly forecast. Then we have also the 6-hourly forecast. The 6-hourly forecast can now give you what is going to happen in your area. So we would like you to always get this particular information and take it very seriously.
How can we get that information? Where do we get
the
it
6
from?
weatherly forecast? We have opened a WhatsApp platform and also the Instagram, where all media houses are there, with some few who have not got into place. But that is where we are always giving to the media houses, and they are the one who are now issuing it, particularly the TV, some TV station, then the radio, local FM station across the country. So they are issuing it out. I always appreciate Radio 1. Radio 1 is issuing this forecast, the 6-hourly forecast, almost after every 30 minutes. And that is the most accurate forecast. Please tune into any radio station or TV station which is issuing this forecast product and gets it on the spot.
On the spot. Thank you so much, and thank you so much for once again coming to a Church of Uganda Family TV, and in the future we shall also be issuing these forecasts to ensure that we are well prepared when it comes to weather. Now please, you've heard the rains are coming. Let's be cautious about some of the activities that we undertake, as we want to avoid any disasters in terms of floods, whether or mudslides or landslides. So let's be very keen to be good practitioners when it comes to looking after good care of our environment, and we need to remain safe. We want our property to remain safe, but most especially we want lives to be protected. Thank you so much for joining us on Issues at Hand today, and we know that you are going to heed the warnings and you're going to ensure that as the rain pours we shall be safe, and as farmers we shall enjoy the rains and use the rains to ensure that our crops grow, and then the rest of us, we will ensure that our drainage channels are unblocked so that the water can flow. Rain is a blessing from God. So thank you once again for joining us. We shall see you again tomorrow. This is Issues at Hand, proudly brought to you by Protea Hotel Entebbe.